Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to speak directly to you and my King community about our government's first budget and the good news in this budget for King and for South Australia. The Marshall Liberal government has delivered a strong budget to deliver on our election commitments and to secure South Australia's future. After 16 years of financial mismanagement, we are returning the state's budget to a sustainable position. This budget achieves a return to surplus and projects surpluses across each year of the forward estimates. I'm so proud that we are not only cleaning up a mess that we were left for our state, but we're also, most importantly, delivering on our election promises. Our Marshall Liberal government is taking our state forward through a budget that is fair, responsible and lays a strong foundation for the future. And I'm so pleased to be able to tell people living in King, with the help of my colleagues on this side of the House, that I'm delivering on what you told me was most important locally and in the state. Today, I take the opportunity to share the good news for King constituents and provide accurate information for people living in King. I have been disappointed, but I must say not surprised, by the inaccurate and misleading information the opposition is sharing in relation to the budget. It is a shame that constituents have to read fake news and then use their valuable time to raise concerns to get the most accurate information from me. Thanks to every community member who has contacted me with questions about the budget. I'm actually really grateful in a way to the opposition, as each of these conversations on this budget has given me one-on-one time with my constituents to discuss how we on this side are getting our state back on track, lowering the cost of living, fixing up and improving our healthcare system and creating jobs in South Australia. I'm pleased with this budget because I still remember the great sadness I felt when I knocked on doors where there were for sale signs up in yards. These people in King told me they were moving their family interstate because they had to find a job. This fuelled my passion even further to fight for jobs and investment in South Australia and to support a government that would implement real change for South Australia. It is my hope in the future that the opposition will also realise what people in the North and North East want is for parties to work together to create more jobs, better services and affordable living. I urge those on the other side to cease their scare campaigns and spend more time reading and understanding how this budget will help make South Australia the best place to live, raise a family and work. It is my intention to work with all members of the House. Come on, it's time now to work together to achieve what is in the local community members' best interests. Let's work together to create a better future for South Australia. I will now highlight areas of the budget which deliver on so many opportunities that people told me were important. First of all, cost of living. The Marshall Liberal government is delivering on its key election promise to lower costs for families and businesses, with our $613.1 million in tax cuts provided in this state budget across the emergency services levy, land tax and payroll tax to create jobs and grow the economy. The 2018-19 state budget provides for a $360 million reduction in emergency service levy bills over the next 4 years, a saving of more than 50% for a median value household in metropolitan Adelaide, or around $145. The 18-19 state budget also delivers on the government's commitment to abolish payroll tax for small businesses from January 1 next year, by exempting businesses with an annual taxable wages below $1.5 million from paying payroll tax, saving businesses up to $44,550 a year. Around 3,200 businesses will be exempt from payroll tax as a result of this measure. A further 400 businesses with payrolls between $1.5 million and $1.7 million will receive a reduction in the amount of payroll tax they're required to pay. I've been talking to accountants and they think this is good for businesses, and I do too. Health, one of the most important things people raised with me when I was campaigning. The state government is investing $1.2 billion over the next 4 years in the key frontline service delivery portfolios of health, wellbeing, human services, including domestic violence assistance, child protection, police and emergency services, in line with the commitments that South Australians endorsed at the state election. The government has had to commit an extra $730 million to health because of the unrealistically high levels of savings the former government had factored into the health budget's estimates. Specific key health service commitments King residents will be interested in are $45 million over 4 years to reduce elective surgery and colonoscopy waiting lists in South Australia's public hospitals, $23 million over 4 years to reinstate the high dependency unit at the Modbury Hospital, reopening the repat as a genuine health precinct. This was raised in King. $16 million over 4 years to increase the palliative care support. $2.6 million over 4 years to establish an adult safeguarding unit to protect our most vulnerable citizens, again raised to me today by King residents. Key mental health service commitments, $2.5 million over 4 years for additional suicide prevention services, $10 million over 4 years for a new specialist borderline personality disorder service, and a bit more on aged care, which was a key concern. In the wake of the Oakden scandal presided over by the former government, we are establishing an adult safeguarding unit which will have statutory responsibility for responding to reports of abuse, neglect or mistreatment of vulnerable adults. And can I take this opportunity again to remind people who have concerns about aged care quality that they can also raise concerns with the Aged Care Complaints Commissioner. They can assist with concerns about the quality of care or services from Australian government-funded aged care providers. Child protection. I am so pleased to communicate that children in state care are further supported with an extra $30.9 million for child protection over the next 2 years. In addition, $3.3 million over 4 years to establish a dedicated paediatric eating disorder service. I will now take the opportunity to share a factual account of the proposed approach to the Northern inter-hospital transfers. As part of the recent state budget, the Marshall Liberal government announced that it will go to market to see if it can find a more cost-effective way of delivering the dedicated transport service that operates between the Modbury and Lyell McEwin Hospital. The service currently uses SAAS ambulance and operates between 6:30 and 2 p.m. 7 days a week. This service, which is only used to transfer non-acute patients between the hospital, has been operating since 2016. It was established around the time that the previous government downgraded the Modbury Hospital as part of its controversial Transforming Health changes. The cost of providing this service has risen as the number of transfers between Modbury and Lyell McEwin Hospital has grown. In the 17-18 year, it cost around $1.2 million to run this shuttle service. That cost is projected to increase to $1.5 million this year, a 25% increase in 1 year. Other local health networks and the SA Ambulance Service itself already use private providers to transfer patients. The service will only involve the transfer of non-acute patients. Acute patients will continue to be transported by ambulance. The investigation of potential alternative suppliers will ensure the South Australian taxpayers are getting value for money while ensuring the service continues to operate safely. Education. A huge good news story. Record funding for education is a hallmark of the Marshall Liberal government's first state budget. We are committed to delivering better services to South Australians and recognise that investment in our children and young people is a key driver for South Australia's prosperity. The Minister has personally guaranteed that the Golden Grove Primary School, Greenwith Primary School and Golden Grove High School will receive many millions of dollars promised under the Building Better Schools infrastructure program. Our government proposes to deliver this school's Building Better Schools project in line with the funding commitments made before the election. I've heard the opposition has been talking some nonsense about plans that have changed. However, the illustrations and lists of desired improvements submitted for schools in the program clearly stated these initial plans are subject to further planning and may change. This statement was placed under the illustrations when the former government was in power, as the funding allocation to each school was determined before the scoping documents were commenced. Neither the former government nor the Department for Education ever provided any guarantee that each school's aspirations or wish lists could be met in total. The work currently being undertaken by the Department for Education in collaboration with our schools will determine the detail of the final projects that will go ahead. The guiding principles for the work developed under the former government remain: the removal of old relocatable or modular classrooms, creation of new buildings for schools with growing student numbers, the refurbishment of classrooms and building, transforming them into modern learning areas, landscaping and upgrades of the street frontage. The 2018-19 state budget initiatives also provides $20.9 million over 4 years to deliver the government's promised literacy guarantee package of measures designed to give students the best possible start to their education. Central to the program is the Education Department's Literacy Guarantee Unit, established this year, that will hire 13 new literacy coaches to support our schools. Coaches will have experience and expertise in literacy instruction, including in phonics and teaching students with dyslexia and other learning difficulties. We want our students to be the beneficiaries of the best education system in Australia, and a strong start in literacy is an essential foundation upon which a student's subsequent educational success will be built. $7.5 million has been provided over the next 3 years to assist planning the transition of Year 7 students moving into a secondary school setting by 2022. I was given a really good example at the Golden Grove Governing Council meeting by a teacher the other night about why this is so important. Currently, the Australian curriculum needs us to teach students in a certain way that can't be accommodated by all of our primary schools right now. An example a teacher gave was in science subjects, we don't have the science labs and Bunsen burners and that sort of thing to actually teach the curriculum they need to be taught. So that's why it's so important for this transition to take place. Also, the government is committed to ensuring a fresh start for TAFE, providing $109.8 million over 5 years in additional resources to support continued service delivery, to implement a new quality system and ensure compliance with the National Vocational Education Training Standards. The significant investment in entrepreneurial and vocational education also ensures that training will be connected to the needs of the broader economy to lead to real jobs and better investment outcomes. This is in keeping with our government's focus on increasing numbers of trainees and apprentices, backed up by the over $202.6 million Skilling South Australia investment through the Department of Industry and Skills. The Marshall Liberal government is investing now to build the skilled workforce that will result in thousands of jobs in the future in South Australia. And there's a great news for energy, which was the other key topic raised at Dawes. $1.5 billion interconnected with the New South Wales to help to fix our power crisis in South Australia. This was a promise we made, and it's currently being delivered. Also, Tesla's virtual power plant. Tesla, with support from the South Australian Government, is developing a network of up to 50,000 home energy systems, comprising solar panels and a Tesla Powerwall battery across South Australia, all working together to form a virtual 250 megawatt power plant, the largest in the world. A virtual power plant is created by a network of home energy systems all working together to generate, store and feed energy back into the grid. Energy from the home energy systems installed as part of this virtual power plant will provide electricity for the house on which they are installed. Any excess energy generated by the system will be dispatched to meet the needs of the grid, providing additional energy to the rest of the state when it's required. And we are funding the South Australia's Home Battery Scheme. The South Australia's Government's Home Battery Scheme will give 40,000 households access to home battery systems through a $100 million investment in state government subsidies and $100 million in Commonwealth finance. While the subsidy will be applied to the battery storage component only, finance will be available for households to purchase new solar panels as well as the battery system as part of the scheme. South Australia's Home Battery Scheme will begin in October 2018. And I'm really excited also to share that we are building an infrastructure pipeline. The Marshall Liberal Government will deliver a record level of general government infrastructure spending in our budget, building a significant pipeline of infrastructure works to grow the economy and create more jobs. Contrary to alarmist claims by the Labor Party, there will actually be a $576 million increase this year compared to what the former Labor government spent last year. The Department for Planning, Transport and Infrastructure will deliver a $3.4 billion in capital works, with projects to include fixing Golden Grove Road. This is a promise we made, and I thank the community again for getting behind the petition that I stood out on Golden Grove Road with my colleagues, member for Newland. The community has been waiting 20 years for the state member they had previously to fix this, and finally, after our community pressure, we are delivering this upgrade. Both the Premier and the Minister have been down with me to look at the road since being elected to see the issues, and everyone wants this to happen. In addition, we will be delivering Skyline Drive slip lane. Over $300,000 has been allocated to upgrade the Skyline Drive turnoff from Blacktop Road at Hillbank to add in a slip lane. This was an issue local residents raised, a promise I made, and it's being delivered. And the Oban feasibility report is budgeted and the study is already well advanced. Those of us living in the north are so pleased by what we're seeing. The Gawler Line electrification, expanding at Park and Rides, the Oban Park and Rides, $33.5 million, prioritising Golden Grove and Paradise. And I just want to make it clear so that no one misunderstands this on the other side. This is an additional $18.5 million above the budget promised by the previous government. 4 park and ride upgrades planned and budgeted for.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
You told me that the upgrade to the Golden Grove Park and Ride was important, and this project is being delivered.
Hear, hear.
Okay, I've got so much more information to share, but I'm running out of time. All right. So in summary, the former government left a mess in key areas, but this state government is working responsibly to clean up this mess and invest in South Australians. We will lower costs, we will create more jobs, we will deliver better services, and there's a lot more good news to share. I will wrap up here, though, and invite people living in King, people living in the north, people living in the northeast to contact me if they want to find out what's really in the budget. I encourage everyone to ask questions and find out the good news for King and for South Australia. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.